Hi, my name is Andy Zain, so I'm from Kejora Venture. We are a venture fund based in Indonesia. We've been operational for the last 5 years. We do early stage from $500,000 to 2 million, but we also have a growth stage fund where we invest between 5 million to 10 million. But today we have interesting panels, and we're going to talk about interesting market, like how to win in Indonesia consumer market. On the panel, we have three distinguished panelists. I'm going to give a quick round for each one of you, maybe to give a quick introduction. Maybe you can share a bit on yourself, about your firm, and maybe what you're doing at the moment. Maybe Ankita, you can start first.
Sure. Thank you. Zilingo is the largest fashion and lifestyle marketplace in Indonesia. We do several other things, but Indonesia is our key market in B2C. We love it, right? It has over 250 million people, per capita income growing very fast. We are very bullish about it, so looking forward to the panel.
What are you busy at the moment?
Sorry?
What are you busy at the moment?
Busy expanding Indonesia at 40% month on month.
40% month on month.
Keeping me very busy.
Okay, cool. Pak Teddy.
Yeah, so I'm from Bukalapak. Bukalapak is one of the leading marketplace in Indonesia. We are mostly still on the C2C, or known to be on C2C. We have a relatively small B2C, but then we're also engaging in a lot of the other parts that I guess we'll talk about later beyond just normal marketplace. So I think if you ask what we're busy with, Indonesia is a 265 million population according to your slides. I guess the penetration remains relatively low for that country. So a lot of our initiative really just to push the whole boundaries of the digital penetration, not just the normal online marketplace.
Wilson.
Hi, my name is Wilson from East Ventures. So I will share a bit different perspective from the two guys here. We invested in Indonesia since 2010, when the number of internet users is 22 million. So right now we have like 132. For the past 8 years, we have invested 150 company. We got a couple of exits. Out of 4 unicorns in Indonesia, we are in 2. Out of 6 unicorns in Southeast Asia, we are in 3.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to go to my cheat sheet over there. Look into Indonesia, winning Indonesia as one of the key consumer market in the regions. If you look here, Indonesia is a huge population, 265 million, right? Internet users, almost half of the population already in internet. Half of them also in social media. And mobile phone penetration, 180 million, which is like almost 70%. Whereas what it says that the mobile phone penetration is about 180 million people, but the connection itself is more than 200 million. Right? So people like us actually have more than one devices. Looking into more of the numbers, actually, why it make it so interesting is that there's a growing population, whereas they say by 2020, there'll be 170 million internet users. Then a lot of this population for Indonesia are young in age, right? Over 50% of Indonesians are below 35 years old. Then adding to the numbers again, they say about 20 million households in Indonesia actually joining the middle class, which is the 4th largest in the world. Right, after China, India, US. Then, if you talk about more and more, there's even more numbers. E-commerce, last year is about 14 billion US dollar, right? Then this year going to be, I think, at least 30-40% growth, right? And most of the e-commerce for Indonesia actually is now in fashion, right? I want to go into Ankiti first. Look, everything seems good, right? Seems like this is the best internet market in the world. Large market, growing middle class, fast adoption, young population. You started a fashion e-commerce in Bangkok initially, then headquartered in Singapore, but you do a lot of activity for Indonesia. How do you see Indonesia as a market for Zilingo?
So, thank you, great question, right? So Indonesia, like you said, it's the 4th most populous country in the world. Middle class is growing very fast. Per capita income has approached the point where China got to before it totally exploded. But what's fascinating to us is actually sort of when you dig deeper into those metrics. Who is getting rich in Indonesia? Who is having more disposable income relative to before? And how can they spend it? And when you look at that, right, for Indonesia, the number of women who in urban Indonesia who work is very high relative to most Asian countries, right? Many people might think Indonesia is a conservative country, but that does not mean that the metrics on gender ratio are bad in any way. In fact, they are way better than most other Asian countries. So in Indonesia, that number is 84 is to 100. India, that number is 24. So that's how much better Indonesia is for our kind of a segment.
84 out of 100 women are working?
No, 84 women are working for every 100 men in urban Indonesia. And similarly, when you split the per capita income, when you see who has the disposable income, all of that is skewed in very sensible, good, positive metrics, macroeconomic metrics for Indonesia. Now, what that means is that always translates into good things for consumer internet, right? Like in Indonesia, it makes sense that fashion and lifestyle is growing very fast, beauty market is growing very fast. There's data to prove that any time per capita income increases in Asia at the base levels that Indonesia is at, beauty and fashion actually grow faster than income as markets, which means that people are spending.
I know that. I know from my wife, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we are very bullish on Indonesia. We absolutely love it. That's the reason why we're chasing Indonesia like crazy, because it's a great market for fashion and lifestyle.
I have to blame you a lot.
Yeah, you
our
should. You'll blame me a lot more very soon.
Okay, I would like to move to Pak Teddy. So, Pak Teddy you are now the Chief Strategy Officer for Bukalapak. Right? Bukalapak is one of the leading marketplace for Indonesia. So, like to learn, like Bukalapak when you started, then until now, if you look at the history for Bukalapak, we can learn a lot about the growing Indonesia consumer. Like Wilson says that from 20 over million users now, 130 million internet users. So can you share how Bukalapak has grown over the last few years, and what insight have you learned from looking after this market?
Yeah, it's a very interesting market where most of the time you have to kind of take a step back and evaluate, because that's when you actually come up with something innovative, right? I think Bukalapak started in 2010. At the time, it was, I guess, what now called as a conventional marketplace, right? And I think about 3 years ago, everybody took a step back and says, look, great, we have a marketplace. That's great, right? What can we do next? And then we start to realize that you're probably going to buy your bicycle once a year at best, maybe once every 5 years. You're going to buy your shoes like once a year. I guess female buy a lot more, I'll be honest with that. And then we start to think about what engage more on day-to-day, right? So that's when we take a step back and literally focus, moving away, not just moving away, but we really enlarge ourselves from a conventional marketplace. We position ourselves to be part of the lifestyle of our user, right? So beyond just a normal trading marketplace of merchandise, you now can go from phone credit to buy your mutual fund to literally book a plane ticket. So literally we ask ourselves, what do our user need, right? That's where it is today. I'm not saying exactly where it is today, but every now and then, every few years, like right now, we're taking another step back and we ask the question, which I'll probably go through a bit later, but we ask the question of, hang on a minute, have we actually addressed 265 million population? Have we actually addressed all the needs that I have out of the 265 million population? Maybe we have scratched the 20% of the population. And maybe even those 20%, we only address 40% of their need, 30% of their need. How do we go further? There's a lot of challenges. They have mobile phones, but it may not be a smartphones, by the way. It can be 2G Nokia, right? Indonesia is not just Jakarta. It's not just Surabaya. It's not just Medan. It's everywhere, right? So then we have to be innovative and start thinking, how can we crack into even deeper market? So I guess what we are doing every day is not just looking at, I've seen a lot of people just expanding the number of users, but you have to go deep. You get deeper, right? Our LTV, for example, in the past year, we have been focusing on our LTV. And we've seen that LTV doubles in the past year. So not only that we enlarge our number of users, we actually engage more with the user. I think that's what a lot of people, if the whole question is about how to win the consumer market of Indonesia, you constantly have to ask that question to yourself every day.
Okay, so you don't like stuck into what you're offering, but see what the customer need, because they're just starting to use internet, and what else that I can sell them via the internet. Because I can see that Bukalapak is not just like a typical marketplace like what you saw in US, all the developed market. But I think in Bukalapak you can find everything, including like I can buy my phone credits, right? My phone top up. What else? What are the other services that are available in Bukalapak?
Yeah, so I mean, we have rolled out quite a bit in the past year, starting from you can buy gold.
Gold?
Yeah, so you can buy from...
Buy gold in an online marketplace?
Yes, true. You know, we have a gold trading, we partner with a gold trading company. You can buy as low as 30 cents. I got my maths right. Yeah, 30 Singapore cents. You don't get the gold at 30 cents. We can't script it that small, right? Once I think it reach a certain amount of size, you can actually take the physical gold. Why? Because we realized that Indonesia, out of the 265 million population, probably about 100 million are still very, quote unquote, conventional. They don't even have bank account, but they love their gold, right? Just like many other Asian countries, right? Mutual fund for the more advanced. Like for example, Indonesia, apparently according to the government, has about 1 million plus mutual fund subscriber. 100,000 actually come from us.
10%.
But you know, most of the others probably subscribe like $5,000, $10,000, $1 million plus. Our user subscribe like literally $10, right? But it's a good way to start them, right? You always constantly have to take that step back and start thinking, what else can we offer them? What else can we improve their livelihood, right? Train ticket, bus ticket, event ticket. We didn't do Asian games for other reasons, but we do a couple other of the events. So essentially, we want to put it as we are part of your lifestyle, right? We offer you practically what you need on a daily basis.
Okay, I'd like to address the next things on more like challenges in the market. I like Ankiti and Teddy can address this. Maybe Wilson can also chime in later. One thing that people always say is that the issue of doing business in the emerging market, in a new market like Indonesia, is more the infrastructure. Then if I can open the next slide, can you show the next slide? So please. Oh yeah, this is very interesting. This is one chart I found from the internet. It says that the orders shared by payment method for Indonesia. The red color actually is that a lot of people still pay using bank transfer. Then cash on delivery, the yellow color. Then credit card and cash on delivery is on the bottom. So credit card actually is very small. Do you find that as a challenge for you to really go into Indonesia market? Maybe your input, then maybe later on Wilson can.
Sure.
More credit card people than me.
Yes. Yeah, how you're gonna get these?
Not that many more. So what's interesting about our category is that at any given point of time, our basket in Indonesia usually doesn't exceed $50. Which means that the risk on every basket is actually quite low. So our view on that has always been that if there's this young girl who's saved up money, or this wife who's not the main bread earner in the family and has cash saved in, doesn't have a credit card, whatever, we have to allow them to buy at their will as well, because they may not have access to be able to do a bank transfer or use a credit card. So in our category, it makes sense for us to allow everything. So we actually encourage COD, bank transfer, ATM and kiosk transfers, right? Like imagine you're a 35-year-old woman, but you're not the main bread earner of the family. You saw something online, now you're going to buy groceries, you're going to Indomart or wherever, and you can
Indomart
just
is
pay
like a 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven equivalent, or an Alphamart or an ATM kiosk. And it's very easy for you to pay 200,000 Indonesian rupiah over there, and your transaction on Zilingo is done, and Zilingo is going to ship it to your home. So for our audience, it's actually a good thing. We actually think of it as we're just enabling a really large set of customers to be able to shop online. It would be a problem, because a lot of people ask me this question, that are these customers worse customers? As in, do they cancel? Do they go away? Is the retention on them bad? Is it costlier to service these customers? The answer is actually no. The answer is we have to adapt to every market and what that consumer is comfortable with doing at the $20 to $50 price point. And these are not worse off customers. So we encourage it.
But Eddie.
So thank you. You actually set the tone very well for me. So that was very right. I think, beyond that, I think in a lot of part of Indonesia, you also find people who not comfortable using online, right? So what we have done, we have actually kind of roll out to what we call Mitra. Mitra is kind of like partners, agency in Indonesia, right? The whole reason is very simple. I think we keep thinking about how online marketplace brought tens of millions of potential buyer to the seller, right? But we forgot that some of these sellers are probably not creative enough to sell anything meaningful for the nationwide. A lot of these sellers are very localized merchant. They're selling commoditized goods. They're selling your daily needs, right? So what we have done is we actually roll out this agency, quote unquote, model to a lot of the kiosks. Just to give you a picture, I don't know if you can show the picture of the kiosk. I'm not talking about something fancy. If you can go to the slide on the kiosk side. We have actually rolled out our apps to about, in total, about 300,000 plus kiosks and about 500,000 plus individuals. And mind you, we did that within like a year, all right? So the whole idea is very simple. If you keep going into the one that has a picture. Next. It's not moving. Yeah, this is, it doesn't belong to us. They're already there. There's tens of millions of this kind of kiosks in Indonesia. So what we are doing here is very simple, right? They are selling normal goods. But in the past, they probably has to get it from 5 layers of distributor. Now, through the apps, they can get it from the producer to us, directly to them. So they'll get it cheaper for a lot of the soap, the shampoo, whatever, the cigarette, whatever, right? It also helped them because they can also sell our virtual product. So some of the store, I mean, it's still very small in proportion of what they can do on this, in the sense that I actually noticed some of these kiosks start selling airplane tickets. Oh. So they suddenly go from mom and pop kiosks, they sell phone credits, they sell airplane tickets. We actually empower them. And the whole idea is they're selling to their surroundings, which typically probably does not have smartphone. That's what I meant, that we're trying to push through this digital penetration as well, right? A lot of these guys, even if they have smartphone, they are not comfortable with using it. They tend to go to someone who knows how to use it. So we also find they become an agent to our platform product. Like some of those guys wants to buy, let's say, a pen. They don't feel comfortable buying a pen on the online market or some wallet or some clothing, right? They go to the guy who owns the kiosk because they know how to operate the apps, and they said, can you buy that for me? So the kiosk owner will charge, I don't know, 10 cents extra, for example, right? To add that commission for them. I mean, they negotiate it themselves, right? So this business is something that we have done less than 18 months. We literally rolled it out less than 12 months ago. Mm-hmm. We now have, as I said, about 800,000 agents in total. To give you a bit of a, I guess, a feel, the largest insurance company in Indonesia, been around for like 15 years. They have about 100,000 agents. Mm. So we rolled this out within 18 months. It is now probably about 20% of our GMV. I think very soon, the GMV from this division will be bigger than the largest department store in Indonesia, a listed department store in Indonesia. But I think this is kind of like the effort we're doing. We don't just sit back and say, wait for the penetration to go up, right? You have to be innovative and start thinking, how can you help that penetration? That's how you grow your whole pie, right? And when you do that, you continuously have to think, why do they want to be partnering, quote unquote, with us? Yeah. We don't pay them anything, yeah, right? Because if we start giving out commission model, agency model, it becomes a very transactional. But in this case, they actually get benefit from us. They actually get cheaper goods, faster goods, because a lot of these guys, they're too small. The producer will never even step foot on them. But with us, they don't have to wait for the next 2 weeks until the salesperson comes, another 2 weeks before the goods delivered. Literally, you click in the apps, the goods arrive in the next few days. Oh. And with our apps also, they kind of help, as I said, they add stuff, because from shampoo, now they're selling airplane ticket, yeah, right? So you have to really think about being innovative, meaning that don't just be innovative for the sake of innovative. Yeah. You have to really think about how do you give that benefit, because if they get the benefit, they stick with you, yeah, right?
So I'm really glad to see that you both see this as an opportunity, right? A store usually sell cigarette or whatever now can sell a plane ticket. My wife go to 7-Eleven, but actually I don't know that she's actually buying clothes, right? You just pay there. Yeah. Wilson, as an investor, how do you see that? Is there all this seen as problem for many people, but this become opportunity for new business coming out? As an investor, how do you see this phenomenon in Indonesia?
I don't know where to start, but this O2O model actually invented by Kudo actually started in 2015, and we sold it to Grab last year as one of the largest deal in Southeast Asia. So this is not kind of the, I mean,
New for you.
yeah, I think, I don't know where to start, but
I think the
friend, yeah?
I think the claim is Kudo is now half our size.
No, it's not true.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, we take it the discussion outside.
So now like.
Okay, so from my perspective as an investor in Indonesia, we have been look at Southeast Asia as a whole. We never really focus Indonesia actually. But if you look at 2.5 trillion economy of Southeast Asia, the first 1 trillion actually in Indonesia. 600 million population in Southeast Asia, 40% actually live in Indonesia. When we started invest in Indonesia, we only invest based on the blind faith. 22 million internet users, and now we have 22 million internet users equivalent to 13% of total population. And during that time, we look at China. China is hitting about 30% internet penetration. So we think there's a lot of room to grow. So the way we make investment decision is very holistic. We look at from helicopter perspective. And we noticed that Indonesia has been very big in Facebook and Instagram without them actually exist in the country. So digital penetration is going to be huge. And then we built hypotheses around it. Indonesia is full of problems. If you look at Singapore, everything is right. We call it best case scenario. You get out from the hotel, you get a taxi on time, internet 4G is a real 4G. Indonesia, everything is worst case scenario. You get out from the hotel, you're stuck in the traffic. You see 3G is not real 3G, it's a dial up, it's so slow. However, there's another component that we think that will make Indonesia leapfrog, the number of telcos. Indonesia have 11 telcos at point of the time. The telco actually have a price war. So by having this, actually, we think that the price of infrastructure is going to be down, price of data, everybody going to use the mobile phone. And because there's so much problem in Indonesia, when you see problem, you see opportunity. We believe internet is going to be the distribution model. Indonesia has 17,000 islands, which is one of the largest archipelago in the world. Distribution is a key problem. E-commerce actually solve a lot of this problem because goods discovery become easily. Now we can track end-to-end what's going on. And in fact, right now we no longer invest in e-commerce. We have been stopping invest in e-commerce since 2013, 2014. So we only invest e-commerce in our early days. Right now we invest a lot into e-commerce enabler. We actually move into SME. We are one of the larger investor of SaaS business because Indonesia have 57 million small, medium, micro businesses that we think only software can bring them to the next level. We move a lot into AI, education, agriculture, and so on. Yeah. So we try to be, because our seed fund, we try to be ahead of the time before things happen. When you see, I hate numbers, because when numbers is all right, it means I'm too late. Someone already like get it done right. Yeah. We always like try to be in the front before everything happens. Yeah.
Okay, so talk about numbers. I'd like to know that because here in this room we have all people like really selected, right? Because this event is by invitation. Just want to know, is like anyone on the audience that how many of you personally have done or have built business in Indonesia? Can I see some hands? Wow, I think there's still a lot of opportunity. Maybe I'd like to hear from Ankiti again, right? You spend your time and most of your career in India. Then all of a sudden they say now you are Team Indonesia, right? How do you see Indonesian market compared to other market like India, for instance, and why, everybody keep on saying India is the next after China or whatever, but then you say, no, I'm going to do it in Indonesia.
So I think it's about why you're doing business or what kind of investment you're looking to do, and what
Targeting my wife, I know.
what kind of time horizon you're looking at, right? So if you were to ask me if consumer internet in India can make profitable businesses just on B2C in the next 3 to 5 years, I would say I think that's hard, because there's a lot of investment to be done in acquiring customers and increasing penetration, etc. in India, more so than Indonesia. However, if you're talking about payments infrastructure or creating the rails on which the next big unicorns and decacorns will be built, then India is obviously great already. But if somebody is patient enough to, build and invest for the next 8, 10 years, India's great too. Yeah, but Indonesia is, like we were discussing earlier, already at that point where consumer internet is exploding, per capita income is already way higher than India.
Wilson can move to India after this.
No, I will not.
No, Indonesia.
He's saying no. But Indonesia is obviously a very interesting market which should be tapped in to right now, right? So because our thesis was to build consumer internet, fashion and lifestyle, it just made a lot of sense to invest in the market that is, the next biggest, but is very ready already.
Yep.
So that was our thesis to go to Indonesia. We're also very bullish about Philippines. We're very bullish about Thailand, Vietnam. Malaysia is already very rich in per capita income. So that's how we think about it.
So I think it's true. Like for me, what I see is that Indonesia now, our GDP per capita is about 3,500, 3,600.
Yeah.
It is similar to China in year 2009, where all the big companies, Tencent, Alibaba, start having their momentum, while India is like below 2,000 US dollars still, the GDP per capita. So that's why I'm also very bullish about Indonesia. I agree what you say. Indonesia is that the next 3 to 4 years, they're going to start seeing things happening. India might take a while, but maybe it's bigger market. Many people are looking into that area while there's big opportunity in front of us at the moment. And many of you are still not doing things in Indonesia yet. So yeah, let's do that. One more questions to both Ankiti and Teddy before we move it to the audience if we have time. Like both of you are not the first mover in the industry, right? Like Zilingo, you come in here, it's like really Zilingo. It's very, very late. You have Zalora, Beribenka, all the other players, Bukalapak as well, right? You have all the other players already in the market. But then you're able to get this strong position in Indonesia market. Can you share like what is your secret and what have you gone through so you're able to still win the market?
Okay. I think first is very simple. It's a large market. There's a lot of potential. I mean, as Wilson's put it, right? We are not the first. Kudo did it. You made a lot of money selling that, right? But we made it better. I can say that because you don't own it anymore, and therefore, since you sold it, right? So
I'm in Grab.
Oh, okay. There you go. I guess that explains a lot. But I think what we do is you take a step back, you look at the potential, and you try to grab it, right? And I'm glad that you guys haven't got marketplace, because if it is, then there's no way I'm going to compete with Kudo, right? Because the agency model kind of tap into our marketplace.
You compete with almost all my portfolio.
Oh, am I? Oh, I'm in trouble. Oh. Well, I guess we are sort of still have a similar shareholder to some extent, right? But I think, again, like, the market is so big. I always said, you don't have to think about competing one to another, right? I mean, there's so many out there in the pie that nobody touch. You might as well just focus on those rather than focusing on where the stiff competition is, because there's no point in that. I mean, competition is great, don't get me wrong. It gets you thinking, being innovative every time. Right?
Even on the same pie, still big enough.
Yeah.
So similar view, right? So when we came into Indonesia, you named a few of our competitors. Most of them were either in the $5 to $7 a piece category or the $40 to $50 a piece category. Most of them were private labels or brands, whereas 60% of Indonesia's fashion market was long tail and offline, right? So none of the capital that you named was chasing that opportunity, and we said, okay, let's go after that. So we said, how do we empower these small fashion designers and small brands to sell online? They need software. Let's give them software. Let's make it free, and then let's bring them online and then see what happens. So I think when we landed in Indonesia and then it expanded very quickly, it was because we were actually not competing with any of our quote-unquote competitors. We were going after a gap that we saw was clearly underserved. And now, of course, if you check out Zillingo Indonesia, it has a lot of brands that do overlap with some of these other companies, and we think that those guys do actually a fantastic job of some of these brands and labels. But our value proposition has then, over time, evolved into being we want to serve everything in fashion and beauty. But when we began, it was very much about serving the 60% of the market, which was not online because they were all long-tail, small offline guys who didn't even know how to sell online. Right? They had never seen Shopify in their life.
So yeah, I think I picked on one of your slides, Pak Teddy, is that you mentioned last year the Indonesian e-commerce is 14 billion US dollar, and in the next 5 years, going to grow to 57 billion. But it's like 4 times. So like there's enough room for everybody. We don't have much time, but maybe I'll try to see if you can do one question from the audience. Anyone? All right, that guy over there to the back. I know him. Your name?
Sure. Yeah, hi, my name is Leon. I'm with Kajora, but no bias towards the question that I'm about to ask. So thanks, everyone, for the panel. My question rather is related to the fellow VC investors. And here, when it comes down to funding and finding talent, strategic investing into Indonesia, when I look at you, Wilson, and the recent projects that you launched with the likes of EV Hive, with Warung Pintar, now in coffee space, and you, Andy.
Us well. You track us very well.
Thank you very much. It is always very great to learn from you and your best case examples in the market. But also you, Andy, with the likes of Chegaja, that was also based on a model of semi-incubation and where the ideation happened within the firm, and you then found the right team to execute. Is Indonesia, in that sense, a market where talent is not drawn to solving solutions via technology yet? Or do you believe that ideation coming from within the VC firm is the right way to generate returns for every stakeholder within venture? Thank you.
The way we look at East Ventures, we no longer a platform that back entrepreneur. Us, ourselves as a VC firm, we love to actually groom our own associates and then to start your own business. So those names that you mentioned actually was groomed internally. Some of the associates, since they talked so much with all our founders, they become excited themselves and turn into the entrepreneur. But the whole idea about investing in Indonesia is not about investing in the product, frankly speaking. In the early days, we look at 3P. We call it 3P, people, potential market, and product. As we go right now at 8 years of East Ventures, we only look at 2 things. We look at the team and we look at the market potential. We no longer look at product. The reason because good founders will build good product. So that's our hypothesis. So all our hypothesis is all about people. And to answer your question, around the world, talent is always a problem. But especially Indonesia, with or without talent, we still have to build the country. I think it's because of the background of us and Indonesia. And if you look at Southeast Asia, most of the unicorn, more than 50% actually in Indonesia. So the numbers actually speak that this country has a huge potential. And if you look at the way the government now operate, they are very, very robust, very fast. From the president level all to the lower level, everybody is really supportive in the digital economy. Even we can easily WhatsApp our minister. We never have that kind of level of support in my whole life as Indonesian. So I think there's a lot of great potential from the consumer side, from the business, from the ecosystem, from the stakeholder in the industry, from the government. Yeah.
Okay, this is my final questions, and I would like you to sum it up for us. We all talk about winning in Indonesian consumer. Then Wilson will talk about the market potential is very important for your market potential and team, right? So East Venture is seen as early adopter, and you're able to pick winner in the industry. So what's next? What do you think is the next winning segment that you choose or you're going to priority in order to maximize what are these opportunities for Indonesia? That's for you. But for the others, I know that you are in Bukalapak and you are in fashion already. But in case you are not on this area and you can choose, what segment are you going to do? This is going to be my final question before you close. Start from Wilson first, then you two can start thinking.
We are sector agnostic. The way we pick the market is pretty simple. Other than the founder have a certain criteria that we want to really invest. But to invest the segment, we look at the traditional industry. We don't look at us as a tech industry. We look at us actually tech enabler. We are a tools to make the industry more efficient. So we look at the big segment, at least $10 billion segment.
Yeah.
And then we believe technology will make it efficient 30%. It become 3 billion industry of the IT. And a good founder will able to conquer 30% market shares. So end up is a $1 billion company.
Okay.
So that's our logic.
Okay, so let's say one segment, what do you think that your most favorite?
Anything in Indonesia, so much $10 billion problem. It's going to be a lot of $1 billion company in Indonesia.
My damn, you make it so difficult. Okay, but Teddy.
You're going to have a tougher time than me because I was not based from this sector.
Yes,
I started as a lecturer,
yes.
economist, lecturer, banker, asset manager, and I chose to come here. So that kind of explains your question.
Okay. But let's say if you can choose one area to build a
I
product.
think in terms of area, it's, again, in the market that actually still has a lot of potential. To me, again, I know I'm in Singapore. I don't want this to sound strong, but it's a country where there's a lot of development needed.
Yeah,
I think one of the reasons why I chose this company before was because I actually see everyone, the management, the founders, they are actually looking to how to build the country, right? How to empower the country, how to empower especially the middle class and lower middle class, the grassroots, that typically doesn't get a lot of attention from people, right? So that is, I think, the focus is whatever the sector may be. I think it's very correct what Wilson says, but if it can actually add to the well-being of the grassroots, that will be something that I think needs attention.
you two really remind me of my daughter. I took her to a toy store. She said, wow, I want everything because everything is so interesting. That's Indonesia. Angkiti.
So I think Indonesia is getting richer. People
Yes.
are very ambitious and hungry, and things are going really well. So I would say fintech,
Fintech.
SME financing, people are very, very ambitious. And I would say content, because people are getting 4G, they're getting money, they want entertainment.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So round of applause for our three panelists. Thank you for being a good audience. So hope we can share a bit on Indonesia and give you some more insights. Thank you.